Hi there. We are back with the Tara Kirk Beginner's Guide to the Human Soul. Listen to this quote. It'll go down in history as one of my favorite quotes of all time. You are a ghost, driving a meat-covered skeleton made of stardust, riding a rock that is hurtling through space. Fear nothing. That quote is anonymous. I've never been able to source it, but I love it because that quote is a little bit of what I think of as like the beginner's guide to the human soul. It creates this beautiful through line from soul and spirit through your physical body and the laws of the very universe and connects it all the way back around to our actions and our emotions. Fear nothing. All right. I also love this quote because it's a really fun way to capture the universe of what we consider fair game to think about and talk about and work with our clients on as Tara Kirk Method certified people. Okay. So you may have heard the saying, the ubiquitous saying that humans are just spiritual beings in human bodies. That sentence is true and it's also incomplete. Here's what I think is true, that we are spiritual beings in an ever evolving, ever expanding psychobiological system, living in and around a multitude of hybrid biosocio-technological and economic ecosystems. All right, so it's just when I am asked the question of like why we are the way we are, that's kind of the answer is it's complicated. All right. What's fortunate is that there are laws to this universe. And one of the laws of this overarching system in which we live is a law of continual growth and expansion. If unresisted, our natural trajectory as humans is toward constant growth and constant improvement, toward ever increasing well being, and toward creation. It is a uniquely human superpower that we have to have thoughts and ideas about things that do not currently exist and be able to cause them to exist. Okay? So here's how I like to talk to my own clients about the beginner's guide to the human soul. This is about worldview here, okay? So here's what I say, and here's what you might want to say too, that you were not born with a harsh inner critic. You were not born with a core trance. You were not born with inner roadblocks or self-sabotage patterns that would stand between you and the full expression of your true sacred self. You know how you were born? You were born perfect, whole, and complete. All right? You are created in the image of the divine. You are a droplet of the infinite intelligence, the limitless love, and the creative power that formed all worlds. And you came here with a sacred contract, which is a curriculum, a trillion line items long of things you came here, you uniquely, eternal soul spirit, into this particular human physical apparatus in which you're in. You came here with a long list of things you would be and do and have and learn and create and experience. Okay? And you came here perfect. Not only did you come here with a sacred contract to learn and create and experience these things, you also came here on the other side of that sacred contract was the divine agreeing to fully resource you, to give you everything you would need to do what you came here to do. But very early in life, usually right around the time we begin to understand facial expressions and language, we start to be trained and programmed by our mostly well-intentioned parents to perform, to conform, and produce. This process is the process that Don Miguel Ruiz calls the domestication of humans. And I love that phrase because we all know what it looks like to domesticate, to house train a dog, right? That happened to you too. We are taught that we are good if we act a certain way and conform to certain standards, and we are bad when we don't. We are taught that if we don't do the things that our parents want us to do, very bad things could happen. Good girl, bad girl. Good dog, bad dog. Exactly the same way we train animals. And children who are highly spirited or high achieving, children who learn really fast, get an extra strong dose of this conditioning. They learn early in life to shove certain parts of themselves down, to hide some of their light, dim it down just a little bit in order to receive praise and approval at home. They get incredible praise when they achieve extraordinary results, and that starts this gradual process of shifting them from being internally focused and motivated to relying on that external validation for guidance and direction about what to do in life. Now, to be clear, this is not all intentional on the part of most parents. They were taught that good parenting is teaching kids to do what you want them to do, to teaching them how to perform, teaching them how to conform, teaching them how to produce, because our culture rewards those things. This is what I call training for the how to be a good little cog in the 9 to 5 machine. But I also want us to call it what it is. All of these things, good girl if you do this, bad girl if you do that. Good girl if you are thin, bad girl if you're not. Good girl if your skin's a certain color, or you make a lot of money, or you have a house and 2 kids and a husband by a certain time, by 30 years old. Bad if you're not. All of that conditioning, it's all lies. Because we are good, full stop, regardless of whether we ever perform or conform or produce. Now, on top of all of that, which I'll call family or childhood conditioning, we also receive millions of repressive, toxic marketing messages, cultural messages, warped patriarchal, religious, and toxic capitalism messages. We get rewarded and externally validated at school and then in our jobs. And on top of all that, we have our own lifetime of personal disappointments and trauma. And over an entire lifetime, through these life experiences and traumas and challenges and getting external validations or not, we take on a whole version of reality that is based on these lies. And most of the time, what happens in a high achieving human's life is that we internalize all of that into an inner repressive parent. That just means that at a certain point, pretty early in your life, your parents no longer had to say shh. Your parents no longer had to shame you or discipline you. You just started to hold yourself back. You started to be well behaved on your own because all of that repression became internalized into your own thoughts. Your own inner repressive parent becomes your core trance or your inner critic. Now, I want you to catch this principle. These habits of thought feel real, but they are not true. They are learned, fear-based thoughts. They were wired into your brain through sheer practice, nothing more, nothing less. And along the way, they became a subconscious thought habit, a program that would eventually just run anytime you were maybe being a little too much, or anytime you stepped out of your comfort zone to do something that made you feel a little exposed or vulnerable. These thought habits were learned through practice, and they can be unlearned. They can be reversed. So these fear-based thought habits, your core trance, your inner critic, that's all just a program. The fear is just a program. And the spiritual journey of an awakening human includes coming here, eternal soul and spirit coming into this meat-covered skeleton made of stardust, coming under the influence of all this cultural and family and childhood conditioning, learning these things, learning and practicing these thought habits, and then unlearning them, finding your liberation. But you can't reverse these thought habits. You can't begin to unlearn them until you know this, that all of your inner dynamics, all of your fear, your self-repression, your self-sabotage, what we call your core trance, what we call your inner critic, it is all goal-oriented. It didn't come out of nowhere. It is a fear-triggered, self-protective thought habit or program that was geared to get you to receive love, attention, and approval of the adults that you needed to take care of you when you were young for your survival. So I know it can be a very profound moment of clarity, the moment that you realize that for almost your whole life, you've been packing parts and pieces of who you really are, parts of your true sacred self, and you've just been packing it away into this bag, and you've been dragging this baggage around you. You've been dragging this baggage around with you for a lifetime. But now, from the moment that someone comes into your practice or your world as a Tara-Nicholle Method certified practitioner, that's the time we begin unpacking the bag. That's the time we begin reversing the repression intentionally. That's the time we begin to rediscover, reawaken, and remember, put the parts back together of your true sacred self. And I mean all of it, all of it. So I know the core trances, those thought habits of fear and scarcity, unworthiness and trauma, they sound really terrible, but they're not entirely bad. Because these thought habits and the stories that are connected with them and the unwanted emotions and even our traumas plant the seeds of hidden treasure deep within us. They plant the seeds of our dreams and desires. Seeds of the things we would like to participate in making be different about our world. Seeds of ever-increasing clarity about what we don't like, which is the same as ever-increasing clarity about who we actually are and why we came here in the first place. So in due time, something happens. Sometimes it's a crisis or a transition or a burning dream or desire that sparks a shift. And we realize that all that fear that was holding us back, it's just a program. And step number one to getting out from under the influence of the program is to see the program and see how it's been influencing you. All right? Because once you see the program, it's a little like lighting a match in a dark room. It's a little like shining light on a shadow. Do you know what happens when you shine light on a shadow? The shadow dissolves. Just by seeing them, those old fear-based thought patterns begin to break, and you are well and truly on your way. From that point on, everything in your life, everything in the universe, begins to collaborate and conspire for your awakening, for your highest good. At that point, your spiritual alarm clocks begin ringing. Your callings begin to get really urgent. And sometimes it's in a flash of insight. Sometimes it's in a decade of unfolding. But you do realize, ultimately and eventually, that it's time to wake up. That is the beginner's guide to the human soul. That is the beginning worldview. That is the jumping off point for everything we do with our clients in the Tara-Nicholle Method. I will see you in the next lesson.